Good afternoon, everyone. I, Dr. Vani Agarwal, Assistant Professor and Program Coordinator, MBA Business Analytics. I'm at University Haryana. Voice is not clear. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
yes, ma'am,
Dr.
you're
Vani.
audible.
Yes,
Ma'am, you are.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, right. So I welcome you all to the Amity Business School, Amity University, Haryana. At Amity Business School, every year we conduct various faculty development programs, MDPs and EDPs. AUH Gurugram is built on a foundation which embodies all the qualities that have made Amity institutions world-class over the last 2 decades. It has instituted global standards in education, training and research with state-of-the-art infrastructure and the latest teaching methodologies. The USGBC LEED Platinum Certificate is a testimonial of Amity University Haryana's commitment to sustainable green campus, making carbon neutral university by focusing on high energy efficient building and sustainable practices. In the Impact Global Ranking, Amity has been ranked 32 globally for affordable and clean energy, SDG 7, 63 globally for climate action, SDG 13, and among top 201 to 300 globally overall. Amity Business School, under the Faculty of Management Studies and Behavioral Science, a part of Amity University Haryana, Gurugram, was established in 2010. The institute is accredited by Accreditation Service for International Colleges, ASIC UK, an international body for educational standards assessment and Accreditation Council for Business Schools and Programs, a prestigious international accreditation body and a global premier destination in the field of management, business management. And ABS also ranked among top 100 business schools in NIRF ranking and among top 10 in Times of India ranking. Academic programs at Amity Business School enable students to find the route to success by putting theory into practice, discover and implement innovative solutions to real-world problems. I'm happy to share that we have designed a complete series of online MDPs and FDPs in this academic year on advanced research methods, data analysis, and data visualization using various analytical tools. So in this series, we have successfully completed our 3 MDPs. First MDP on data science for managers, second on data analysis using R programming, and third, recently we have completed in January MDP on data visualization and storytelling using Tableau with a good number of participants from various different organizations, nationals as well as international. So today we are starting with our 4th FDP on advanced research methods. And the main objective of this FDP is to identify the appropriate techniques for different research objectives and also to provide hands-on approach to data analysis in MS Excel and SPSS statistical software. Now, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Vikas Madhukar, Pro Vice Chancellor and Dean, Faculty of Management Studies, Amity University, Haryana, for opening remarks. So Dr. Vikas Madhukar is specialized in finance.
Right. Dr. Vani, we can stop this.
Okay, okay, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir, you can continue.
Thank you, Dr. Vani.
Thank you, sir.
A very good afternoon to all. Professor Dr. Monica Arora, Professor Dr. Ranjana Kothari, Dr. Rishi Manrai, Dr. Vani Agarwal, all participants, faculty members, research scholar, and participants from corporate. On behalf of Amity Business School, Amity University, Haryana, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this 5 days faculty development program on advanced research methods. Dear participant, before I say something, can I request you to open your camera so that we can have a meaningful interaction, because it seems that everybody's camera is off except the faculty members, those they are present here. So I'm just waiting for a few seconds so that you can open your camera and can adjust your camera as well, so that we can have one-to-one in any online interaction. If we want to make that online interaction meaningful, it is important that uh, our camera is on, so that it not only create an interest of the speaker, but it also make it easier to connect with the audience when the lecture is delivered. So I can't see Gurpreet Kaur, Alisha Chaudhary, Puneet Kumar, Priyanka Yadav, Pushpendra, Kirti Daya, Dr. Mustafa, Pooja Prasad, Tanima Sharma, Manoj Kashyap, Komal Sharma, Mamta Dabas, Dr. Shikha, Nidhi, Satbir, Komal Sharma, Pooja, Dr. Shikha Agarwal, Nidhi, Mamta, Divyakshi Singh, Divya Yadav, Meghavi Saran, Jayati Ranga, Twinkle Chavda, Dr. Anushika, Megha Yadav, Dr. Usha Mudgul, Anshu Sinha, Grisham Tripathi, Bhumi. I think I've spoken name of everyone, but still I don't see many of you are open the camera. You're right. Good. So now I have a good number of participants with your camera open. So coming back to the 5 days faculty development program or advanced research method being organized by Amity Business School, Amity University, Haryana. Right, as Dr. Vani was mentioning about that, we keep organizing such faculty development program for the benefit of the faculty member from Amity University, not only from Amity University, Haryana, but of course from across all Amity universities, and also from other universities, and including the practitioners from corporate. So in our each FDP, we witness that the participants are diversified. They are from different states, they are from different institutions, including the corporate. In today's FDPs also, we have good number of diverse participation, not only from different Amity universities, but also from other universities. Some of the universities like the Jain University, Banastali Vidyapit, Somaya Institute of Technology, Lovely Professional University, Himachal Pradesh University, the GLA University, Mathura, Chandigarh University, GL Bajaj University, and there are many other names which are there in the participant list. And we also have a few participants from corporate like Bank of India and TRPW strategic partner are the few name among where the participants are from. Right. So as I was talking about that, the university keep organizing such kind of faculty development program, and there are various issues we have addressed in our different FDP depend upon the theme of FDP. Now, particularly when we're talking about the research methods, now the research methods, well, while we were designing the faculty development program, we thought of that we should have research method divided into two parts. The first part, research method, which are basically oriented towards the beginners, right? So where we could talk about the basic tool and techniques which are otherwise quite helpful and useful in making a meaningful analysis. So we thought of to design the one basic FDP, and then the second thought was the FDP for those advanced learners, though they already have a good background of basic research method, and their knowledge can further enriched, or if they already know some of the advanced tool, the FDP can provide a good platform to them to clarify the doubt what each one of you have been facing. So keeping this aim in mind, we had developed this particular FDP where particularly on different session, we are going to focus on different issues, right from the exploratory data analysis in Excel, in linear regression, use of SPSS and exploratory factor analysis. So the analytical software what the resource person are going to use be with the help of SPSS, because SPSS is one which is quite commonly available and is most popular one among the researcher community. So most of the researcher faculty members, they are using SPSS as a primary software. So looking at the particular topic research method, generally, I see there is a myth in the mind of researcher with reference to research methodology. They say, I know the research, but I am a little bit weak, or I don't have good hands-on research methodology. I will take the help of a good statistician in my analysis, and rest I will do. So, this kind of view create a divergence between the understanding of a research method, statistical analysis, and the overall research, right? Because I believe, this is my personal opinion, that the research method is something which is an inseparable part of your overall research, right? When any scholar who enroll in a PhD program, the first thing the scholar is required to submit is a research synopsis, a research proposal. And a research proposal, of course, is going to define the whole journey and complete roadmap of the PhD research work of the candidate. And once this research proposal is made, right, the starting point of making any research proposal or making any of the research is a literature review, right? And literature review, again, I have seen many researcher, like, they do not have a very comprehensive understanding about the literature review aspect. Most of the researcher or research scholar, what they do when they come up with a literature review, they come up with a crisp summary of the article, right? So what generally they are doing, they have an Excel sheet prepared, right, where they are writing the name of the author, the year, the title of the paper, the main aim of the paper, the main finding and conclusion, and they say that we have done the literature. But actually that's not a right way of doing the literature. Rather, it is only providing a kind of little abstract of the research paper, because what is expected in a literature review, we expect that once a paper is reviewed, the paper is reviewed critically. And when you are reviewing a paper, it must be compared with the other similar paper, and the researcher should be able to find out that how this study is different from the other study, and what was not covered in the previous researches, whether that part is covered, or what new thing has been covered, or if the same thing has been covered, how differently the same thing has been covered, right? If the same methodology has been used, then what is the difference in the variable what the earlier author has taken and this author has taken, how the data set of two papers are different, right? Generally the scholars and researchers, they write that, sir, this is a paper, the author has used multiple regression, the B also used multiple regression, so both have used the same analytical tool, right? But that's not the way. When you are analyzing the research methodology, you should be able to see, okay, the primary tool has been is the same, the multiple regression, but how the models and variables are different with reference to one paper or another paper, right? How the definition of variable is different, how the measurement of variable is different, how the relationship between the dependent and independent variables have been identified, what kind of data set has been taken, right? What kind, when I say what kind of data set, of course, you need to check whether what kind of data, it is a time series data, it is a panel data, or it is some other kind of data, right? So there are a lot of things in literature review which are very important, and one cannot understand unless one has a good understanding of research methods, right? One would be able to understand and interpret and compare it only when one will have a good understanding about the research methodology. And research methodology understanding is, I believe, very, very important in identifying the research gap. Right. I generally ask the first question to all new research scholar about their understanding about the literature, as I was mentioning about the myth, right? So literature review part is very, very important, because ultimately the primary objective is to see that what studies have been done, what problem has already been addressed, and what has not been addressed, and what has not been addressed, to what extent that issue is relevant in present and future context, and how can a research problem be defined out of the gap, out of the work which has not been done earlier and which is required to be done now. So that's the basic crux when we're talking about a research, defining a research problem or identifying a research gap. And I'm trying to relate this identification of research gap and definition of research problem to the understanding of research methodology, because as I said that the understanding of research methodology will quite helpful to you and quite significant to you in identifying the appropriate research gap and defining the problem appropriately, right? So the one context of this workshop, the usefulness and the significance of understanding of research methodology is from the perspective of preparing your proposal, and second, of course, defining the research problem, and third, of course, from the perspective of when you are actually conducting your research, defining your objective, and maybe you are developing a theoretical framework, right? The methodology is going to be very, very helpful for you in clearly define the theoretical model of your research, clearly stating the hypothesis of your study, and also clearly stating the roadmap of your study, which will eventually help you in preparing the right kind of questionnaire, right? Because again, I have seen this problem in many researches where the scholar has prepared or the researcher has prepared a questionnaire and collected the data, but then when the time of analysis is coming out, the scholar is finding difficulty in terms of applying an appropriate technique, because the technique what he had planned or mentioned in research methodology, he probably will not be able to apply that because of the kind of questionnaire, the kind of scale which has been made, right, and kind of data set which has been collected. So in any way, the research effort which has been made by the researcher will go waste, because either he has to change the research methodology or he has to make amendments or changes in the questionnaire. That's why we always advise to conduct pilot before going to a mass study, so that you should be able to analyze the data collected through pilot and find out whether there is seamless integration between your objective, your research problem, your objective, your research methodology, your questionnaire, and finally what you expect to achieve out of it, right? So in nutshell, when I see research method in my holistic perspective, I find that the knowledge and understanding of research method has a great significance in making and defining or preparing a good research proposal, and also it is going to help you in your research journey right from beginning to end, right? So that's the background, and with this background, I'm expecting a lot of participation from all of you, and once the first day session is over, I expect you to go back and do some homework, find out, read the relevant literature, and next day when you are coming up, you should have some question written, and before the session is starting, you should have those questions answered from the resource person, so that the doubt can be clear. And especially with the kind of case studies probably you are going to solve, right? You need to also see that what different scenario can be there. So the more you will think, the one analysis which I talk is the what if analysis. So the more you think that what is required to be done if these are the variables, so what if, then that will your mind will work more, and you will have more question in hand to be asked from the resource person. So to make it more and more productive, the more and more participation, the more and more self reading is required during these 4 5 days, right? So that you can reap the maximum benefit of this FDP. So I appreciate the effort of the team, the coordinating team of this FDP and resource person. There are different resource person. You can see on the screen the initial session will be taken by Dr. Ranjana Kothari, who is associate professor and who has a very strong background in mathematics. She is not only MB in finance but also MSc in mathematics. Dr. Monica Arora, who again is completely from IT background and has very good expertise not only in the research methodology but also application of IT and analytic. Dr. Vani Agrawal, who is faculty in economics, but an expert not only in research methodology, but also in econometrics and also in analytic. Dr. Rishi Mandrai. Dr. Rishi Mandrai is associate professor in finance and also coordinating PhD program. He is an excellent researcher who has published uh, almost 8 to 10 Scopus Index paper in last 2 years, the highest published in our management department, and who is a very vivid researcher. So Dr. Rishi is also going to take your session on 4 and day 5. We're going to talk about the. So there is a good pool of experts available in this FDP, and when you have a last day, all 5 will be all 4. Yes, all 5 will be there on that day, right? So we'll have a complete open Q&A session. So that's again an opportunity where all these 5 can pool their knowledge, right? So looking forward for a very productive faculty development program. Wishing you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for wonderfully explaining the relevance of research methodology. And in Amity University, we believe in like two-way communication. That's why we have provided the rights to all the participants, mic and camera rights. So please utilize that. And now we are starting with our today's session. So for the today's session, 2 resource persons are there. First, Dr. Ranjana Kothari, Associate Professor, Amity Business School, will start the session. And then Professor Dr. Monica Arora will continue the session. Thank you so much. I welcome you, both of you, the resource persons. Please, Ranjana ma'am, please start the session. Thank you so much. And we have created a WhatsApp group. One more announcement. Please share your queries or doubts on the WhatsApp group, and please join that WhatsApp group, right, for easy communication. Thank you so much.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Can
you make it a full screen?
Yeah, this is what am I doing? Just a second.
Okay.
Yeah, is this visible?
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Okay. So good afternoon, one and all. I'm Dr. Ranjana Kothari. I'll be taking this introductory session of research methodology. This is the basics of introduction, basics of research methodology, that what is research methodology and what all components are required to conduct a good research. Okay, and the process. So let us begin this. So we all know that the research is very important aspect nowadays in either if we talk about scientific research or a business research or into industries. So the main purpose of research is to discover answer to the questions, the problem which we identify either in industry or in social environment nearby. So it is the application of scientific procedures. The main aim of research is to find out the truth, which is either hidden or which has not been discovered yet. So we may also say that it is a search for knowledge. It is a systematic and scientific search for getting relevant answer. Okay, or we may call it as scientific inquiry into a particular subject, or we may call it as unknown to known. So there are a lot of definitions, lot of words, there's a lot of things have been, we may say to research that yes, it is basically establishing systematic, reliable and valid knowledge about the social world. Okay, so research has been composed of two syllables, re and search. If we talk about the prefix re, that means again or over again or anew. Basically, so we would be doing it, this research again and again to know a new or to discover a new knowledge. And the search is to examine closely and carefully or test and try. So together, if we see, it is kind of form a careful, systematic, patient study and investigation in some field of knowledge undertaken to establish some principles or policies maybe or to conclude to a decision. But at the same time, when we talk about methodology, as Dr. Vikas Madhukar sir has already explained it very well, that it is way to systematically solve a research problem, basically. And it is science of studying how research is done. So it is a term which is systematic and logically solving a problem. It helps us understand the process, not just the product of research and analyze method in addition to the information obtained by them. And the main objectives, why we actually go for research? To find out truth, but that is hidden, as I said already, to gain familiarity with the phenomena or to archive new insight into the study, to investigate or understand the characteristic of a particular individuals or a group, or maybe if we are doing market research, then our customers, or maybe if we are actually working towards the society, then to know about the people in the society and the problems they face, to formulate and test hypotheses so that we can reach up to the decision or conclusion. And we may find out the causal relationship between the variables to get decision making through problem solving. So these are the basic objectives we may say are there for research. Now this is the purpose of research that we actually discover. The primary purpose of basic research is to discover, do some research and development of methods, system, then interpret and then document. So ultimately we will be going into documentation. We'll be coming up to that why documentation and reporting is important. Now, significance or importance of research. So, when we are having any doubt, when we actually are having a doubt or a problem in our mind that yes, this is the problem on which we are actually finding the solution, that the problem is always there and we are actually thinking about it regularly, then what we do? We actually start searching or inquiring about that problem. So, the overconfidence for it leads, or sorry, doubt is better than overconfidence that is written, and it leads to inquiry. So when we start inquiring, inquiry might it may lead to investigation. So the process of these three stages: investigation, analyzing or diagnosis, and prediction of our future development. So this is what is the research basically come out together. So it is helpful nowadays as we become management faculty and management people, we nowadays actually using this research a lot into economic, business related or market related or social sector related researches to come out the solution of the actually for the problems which we are facing or industry is facing or academicians are facing. Okay. So actually it helps in decision making, as I already said. Okay, so whatever problem, either it is in managerial problem, for an example, we are facing, management is facing some problem. So they may come out with the problem idea and that problem would be leading towards a solution. Alternative course of actions would be there, out of which we need to finalize that yes, this we may take as a particular decision or as a solution to that problem. So in that case, we would be going for research process. Now, there is always a confusion among researchers that what is research method and what is research methodology? What is the difference between these two? That why research method is also there and methodology is also there. So research method, these are the methods by which you conduct research into a subject or topic, whereas research methodology explains the methods by which you may proceed with your research further. So basically, research methodology is a broader term, and method is just to conduct research. It tells you about how to research. Research methodology involves the learning of such methods. Am I audible? Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It was mentioned on my screen that my internet is okay. Fine. Thank you. So research methodology involves the learning of the various techniques. So here in methodology, we'll be learning those techniques which we are actually applying to conduct these experiments. Okay. So this is what is the major. These are the major differences where research aims at finding solutions to the research problem.
Ma'am, your voice is not clear.
Yes, ma'am. There is internet issue,
Problem.
connectivity issue.
Whereas research methodology aims to hello. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, but
Yes,
your
ma'am.
voice is breaking.
My voice is breaking.
हाँ बीच में आपका ब्रेक हो गया था.
Yeah, this is what was mentioned in my
हाँ.
screen also. But okay, now am I audible clearly? I hope I'm audible clearly now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. So what I was saying that research methodology has many dimensions basically, whereas research method do constitute a part in research of our research methodology. And the scope of research methodology is wider. It's actually used, and the research methodology is having a similar, it constitutes a part in it. Now, to be a good or perfect one, the research, what all things should be done. So it must, as far as possible, it should be controlled. SR has also said that when you are going for research, you should be very much focused. You should always be into that problem that yes, you are actually working on that problem. So you should be focused toward that problem only. You should not actually deviate from that particular focus. So control the research problem should be affected or influenced by, it should not be affected by external factors or other variables. You should always focus on the variables which you have actually chosen. And it should be rigorous. Obviously, it is most important that the procedure followed to find answer to question should be relevant, appropriate, and justifiable. And yes, your research should be systematic. Okay, that means a logical sequence should be followed. There should not be haphazard manner that you will be actually conducting. Or if we talk about the valid and verifiable, so either you should actually validate or some other peers of your, you can verify it through either pilot study as sir has mentioned before. Empirical is the conclusion drawn should be based on hard evidences. Okay, it should gather from real life experiences. So that is why it should be, your study should be empirical, and obviously it should be foolproof. That is why we can say that it is critical. So that is why it should be done foolproof. Now, if we talk about what is the good scientific research, so yeah, this is purpose. Purpose should be clearly defined. The title which you will finding or the problem which you have identified. So the purpose of that particular research should be clearly defined. The process, the design thoroughly planned, limitation should be frankly revealed. Can anyone tell me why limitations needs to be frankly revealed? Can anybody answer this question to me? If I'm audible properly?
Ma'am, so that in future, the researchers can work on those limitations.
Very good. That when while conducting their research in the similar area or similar topic or similar kind of investigation they are into, the limitation which you faced, they should not face. Very good. High ethical standards applied, adequate analysis and decision makers needs. Yeah, so obviously one should keep in mind the decision makers needs also when you are actually going for the research. Conclusions should be justified and researchers' experiences should be reflected. Now, these are the qualities of researcher, which should be there analytically. He or she should be having analytical mind. A person should be people person. Why that person, the one who is a researcher, should be a people person? Why is it so? The scenario it is important. It is not
So that
necessarily
they,
that a person should be a people person.
so that the person can communicate easily with the sample of
Yeah, very good
population.
to the respondents. Very good.
Yeah.
So best out of the interviews, for example, he has gone to the interview or focus group is there. In that case, that person should be able to communicate with them easily. Okay. And the one should stay calm because it may take time. Okay. It is not the thing which can be done in hurry, the research. Intelligence is required, curiosity to actually know more or go into deeper and deeper into that particular topic. Okay, quick thinker because you may have to switch from one situation to another quickly. So you'll have to make plans, go accordingly. Okay, you should think fast. Your commitment is always very, very important towards, though a commitment is important in everything, but at the same time, your research needs your commitment. Okay, which is very, very important. The number of hours you need to spend on that, you must. Excellent written and verbal communication, because ultimately when you will be able to finally come out with the results, you would start writing and the report would be prepared or article would be prepared out of it. So that article other person would be reading, and the other person, the audience or the readers may actually, they should be able to finally read or able to actually relate your findings with your problem or the solution which you have given. So in that case, it is important that your English, or the communication language in which you are actually writing the paper should be very simple. Then sympathetic. Yeah, many of the people, they ask why it is sympathetic, why it is important that one should be sympathetic. So yes, sympathy actually is required because sometimes we go to the society and find out the problem. Where interviewing them. So it is important to actually connect with them easily. Now it should be systematic, that you'll have to do check again. Okay, you might have to go to pilot study. Not might, I would recommend that one should go for pilot study, which is very important. So spending a proper amount of time for checking always. That is important in that. Now let us start with the main process, the research process, where we will be actually discussing most of the things which are there into research or research methodology. So identification of problem is the first step, because if you don't have a good idea or a title or a problem which has never been actually, or maybe the right solution has never been found out. So the identification of problem is your first stage. If the moment you have identified a good problem, then your half work is done. Then obviously, and if you would be able to actually formulate it and you will be able to explain the problem properly, then most of the work is done. Now the things would be very simpler there later. So review of literature. Then the third step is setting objective. While in the step one also, you'll have to do a little review of literature. Not little, but maybe a lot. Step two, reviewing of literature, setting objective and hypothesis is your third step, that is formulating hypothesis. Fourth stage is choosing the study design, that is the research design, which particular research design we opt for. Step 5 would be collecting data. And stage 6 or step 6 is processing and analyzing data. And the last step is writing the report. So in this study, various steps you have seen, which would be actually answering to the questions like why a particular research study has been undertaken. The people would be able to get the answer of this question, how the research problem has been defined, what was and why the hypothesis has been formulated, why a particular technique of analyzing data is used, or how the data were collected, how the collected data were interpreted, and what deletion was made. What was the conclusion? Finally, what was the solution for the research problem? So collectively, these all would be giving answer or providing you a research methodology. So basically, this is what is these various steps generally adopted you would be able to make a research methodology out of it. And the research methodology would be providing answer to all these questions. So let us start with the first statement, or sorry, first step, that is identification of problem. Okay, so now if this problem, how to actually identify a problem? As sir has also mentioned that you will have to do a review of literature, you'll have to identify the gap and how it should be done. Sir has very well explained it. So I'll be just taking a very quick overview on it. that suppose if you are going out for a drive, before you start, you decide where you want to go and then which route you have to take. If you know the route, you do not actually require to talk to street people or street directory. But if you don't know the route, then you need to use one. So your problem, because there might be alternative routes, then you need to use one. So your problem is compounded if there is more than one route. You need to decide which one to take. So this research process is basically very similar to undertaking a journey. As with your drive for a research journey, there are also two important decisions to make in your research journey. The first, to decide what you want to find out, and second, need to decide how to go about finding this in their answers. So basically, you are actually looking for what to find out, and second, how to go about finding their answers. So the path of finding answer to your research question constitutes your research methodology overall. I hope you guys are getting me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
Yes,
let us,
ma'am.
yeah. So what is research problem statement? As I already said that a problem well stated is half solved. That means if you have actually made your problem statement very clearly, or then you're half of, because your idea would be clear that what you need to actually find out. And actually you would be able to find the alternative course of actions also out of it, that yes, these are the final, this at this point I'll have to reach ultimately. So it actually includes a vision and methods used to make ways into solve the problem. Basically, it is a clear, concise description of the issues that need to be addressed. So the steps, basic step, this is basically the basic step in research. The first step, without finding problem, one cannot go for research, or without having a good logical problem, or maybe an idea, one cannot actually move ahead. Likewise, so business research is possible in marketing, banking, insurance, transport, export, etc. A lot of other verticals. In market research, if we talk, we generally conduct product research, price research, consumer behavior research, packaging research, promotion research. And yes, as customer is the king, so nowadays most of the companies, they are going for market research and finding out consumer buying behavior, consumer satisfaction, which is very prominent research which most of the companies are organizing to sustain into the industry. Okay, and actually to maybe to lead the industry or to get the good market share, or actually few of them are surviving just because of market research. Okay, if you would not be actually going with the flow, then you might not be able to survive. So a research problem is like the foundation of a building. The type and design of the building are depending upon the foundation. The same foundation is well designed and strong, you can expect the building to be also. So the research problem serves as the foundation of research study. It is well formulated, you can expect a good study to follow. Just a second, it is not moving. Yeah, it is changed now. So importance, why it is important to formulate a research problem, as I have already told you, to filling up the existing knowledge gap, as sir has mentioned, that yes, identifying gap is must. Otherwise, what would happen? If we will not identify the gap, can anyone tell me that the topic or the title or the problem is very much clear into my mind? But at the same time, if I have not found gap, then what would be the major problem? Can anyone tell me? If I'll not actually do review of literature and not finding gap. Please, anyone?
Wastage of time, energy, and money.
Yes, very good. Wastage of time, yes, energy and money. Very well said. But why? Because because the research which I would be conducting would have been conducted by others also. So that is why the result given by me would have no relevance into industry maybe. Then yes, you're absolutely right. Then the resources would be utilized for not being on the actually the right direction में हमने उसको use नहीं किया होगा. So it is better to actually go for review of literature first, so that you should know that what all researches have been conducted. You should do the comparative study that yes, here in this particular research, these particular things have been done. So I can, kind of contribution I can give to the industry through my research. So one need to find out the gap which has the kind of research which has not been done so far. And the results would either be helping to government to create the policies, or maybe to researchers who would be actually using it tomorrow, maybe industries to find out solution for their problems, or maybe the academicians or to the students. So basically the all users who would be actually benefited out of our research, you'll have to actually target them, and then accordingly you'll have to find a good problem. So knowledge of the relationship among different aspects of nature of phenomena, testing and verification of new and old body of knowledge theories, the need of theory construction. So these are the important of problem that these would be actually helping. Need of defining problem, again, almost the same. It would actually give you the direction of the study, it reviews the methodology or procedure. It helps the researcher to control subjectivity and basis of the researcher. And problem, suggest and specific variables would be come out. So basically to identify the variables, your problem would also be stating you few of the variables, and when you will be doing review of literature, you will be able to find out the variables which are actually required to investigate or to find out the solution to the problem. Now, the second step is review of literature. I hope Dr. Madhukar has very well explained it, so I'll be taking it very quickly. It's avoid duplication. It actually helps learn and report it of the problem. It helps researchers to become familiar with the methodology followed by others, understand the concept and theories which are there, and helps us understand the significance, controversies, contradictions, and inconsistency in finding. It allows understand any unanswered research. So these are the main points which actually helps in review of literature. So purpose of review of literature to find out what information already exists, identify gaps, find other people working in your field, identify major work which has been done, identify main methodologies which were used, identify main ideas, conclusions which have been drawn, provide a context for your own research, show relationships between the studies or theories. Okay, so these are the main reasons, the purpose why we conduct review of literature. I'll have to be a little quick. Sources of review of literature. So basically, we go for generally secondary study. So secondary research would be sources for review of literature. Primary, we may say that yes, through your brainstorming sessions with your peer colleagues or friends, you may identify your problem statement. Sources of literature. So these are the primary and secondary sources basically. Here are few of the databases which we may actually use to find out literature. And the gap is also very, very important, as I mentioned. So gap also consider the missing piece or pieces in the research literature. So research gap is simply a topic or area in which missing insufficient information limits the ability to research a conclusion for a question. So let us move further to setting up objective and hypothesis. So our main objective should fulfill the main problem. So main objective, here we will be talking about the main objective, that is primary objective and subsequent objective. So an objective, the type of information that should be collected, provide a framework for the scope of the study. A hypothesis is an unproven statement and proposition that can be refuted or supported by empirical data. Okay, so these are difference between research hypothesis. So these would be very much clear when you would be actually providing objectives and hypothesis statement. So what is hypothesis? Why it has to be formulated with the objectives? Why there should be a link between if we are actually looking for the relationship or to want to actually prove something, a particular statement. So this is what is the hypothesis formulation is important. Hypothesis is a formal question that researcher intends to resolve. So this is what is hypothesis. I'm not going to teach you hypothesis in detail, but yeah, why it is important, we will be talking about. Hypothesis is a predictive statement. We all know that hypothesis is an assumption about a statement which can be given for the population. So it can be capable of being tested by scientific methods. So we'll be using a lot of scientific tools to actually test this hypothesis. Okay. So students who receive counseling will show a great increase or in creativity than students not receiving counseling. So this is kind of a statement which can be provided in hypothesis. The automobile A is performing as well as automobile B, for an example. So these two examples are given that you need to actually prove that the statement is right or wrong. So through hypothesis, we'll be testing it and we'll be providing the result. So hypo A plus thesis. So hypo means tentative or subject to the verification, and thesis means statement about solution of a problem. So collectively, it is hypothesis. Okay, there are few examples which because time would not allow me to explain it in detail. So it is conceptual in nature. It is a verbal statement, is a declarative form. It is an empirical referent. It indicates the tentative relation between two or more variables, as I said, and it was a forward or future reference. Now, hypothesis, if we talk about, there are two kinds of hypothesis which we all have studied. But yeah, what is null and what is alternative, basically? So people, they get a lot of, like they might have a lot of confusion. Even among you also, there would be a confusion that, and a lot of people think that the hypothesis testing is a little tough task. But during these 4 days of your 5 days of your FDP, you would start having interest into hypothesis, and you would be able to, and you easily actually testing and coming up with the solution through hypothesis also. So here, if we had to compare method A with method B about its superiority, if we proceed to the assumption that both methods are equally good, then this assumption is termed as null hypothesis. And we are there to actually prove null hypothesis wrong. Okay, so null and alternative hypothesis, alternative is just against of this, what has been said. We may think that the method A is superior or the method B is inferior. We are then setting the term as alternative hypothesis. So what is the null hypothesis about the population? The statement has been given. Just opposite of that would be alternative hypothesis. And we symbolize null as H0, whereas alternative as HA. This is what is the process of hypothesis testing, that formulation of hypothesis, design of experiment, data collection. So first we have done during our research process. Right now we are talking about formulation of hypothesis. These next three would be done with the next process steps: design, data collection, testing of hypothesis would come during analysis. So hypothesis testing would be coming in your next stages, but I'm just for the brief because I have covered hypothesis here a bit. So here we would be talking about level of significance. The level of significance is basically that it actually ready to reject that particular part. So the particular hypothesis. So 5%, that means 5% probability you are taking to reject that. Okay, so the level of significance is a very important concept in the context of hypothesis testing. It is always some percent, usually 5%, which will be chosen with great care. Thought and reason, in case we take the significance like 5%, then it implies that X0 will be rejected at that 5%. So you can see in this picture that both the sides, there's a two-tail test basically. The example has been given for two-tail, where both sides 5% rejection area has been kept. I'm not going into this because you may get confused right now. When you will be studying hypothesis in detail, then you will come to know about it. So the test statistics, there are two tests, basically parametric testing and non-parametric testing. So the parameters which we actually use here, you must have heard about statistical parameters like mean and standard deviation. So these kind of parametric, if the parameters are available, then we will be going for Z-test and T-test, chi-square and F-test. And for non-parametric, yes, we'll be going for ANOVA test. I'm not going right now into this. Yeah. So the next step is choosing the study design. So basically, now this is kind of research methods we were talking about. So research design, what all types of research designs are there? So if we talk about the basic research designs, these are techniques, basically survey, experiment, secondary data study, observational study. Okay, so research problem is preparing the research design. Research design is the conceptual structure within which the research is conducted. So it provides the answer to the question. So basically, when you go for exploratory research, now I'm coming to the types of research for an example. So you can see that these are the basic researches. Okay, with the objective of application, yes, it is pure research and applied research we will be actually conducting. So what is pure research? Anyone who can tell me what is pure research? What it can be?
Research related to theories.
Yes. So basically to formulate theory or policies, we will be going for pure research, like with research in mathematics. So we'll be actually going to conduct this research. And the next is applied research. So applied is, which is related to pressing a practical problem. Okay. So either it can be social, economical, or political trends prevailing in a country. So there you may actually apply or use this kind of research. Okay, anyone who can tell me what is descriptive research? It is basically survey-based or fact-finding inquiries, where it describes the actual prevailing state of affairs. So existing or present, whatever. So here, variable influencing the research has no control, or the researcher has no control over the variables. So frequency of shopping, customer preferences, when such kind of researches would be conducted, we will be actually going for descriptive research. Correlative research, where we are actually discovering the existing relationship or independence between two or more aspects. Okay, so this is what is the investigation, or we may call it as comparative study also. Exploratory research, most of us actually go for exploratory research also, because while finding the gap, you actually explore more and more, and you actually read a lot of literature review also. So exploratory research is actually define the problem. It does not give you solution. It may give you alternative course of actions, but at the same time, it would never give you solution. It would always explain the problem in detail. Okay, and quantitative and qualitative research. Yeah, the research which deals with numbers would be quantitative research, and the qualitative research where we'll be talking about the psychological aspects, or maybe the people preferences, consumer behavior. Those were kind of research where the numbers you may not, or it would not be the numerical ones. In that case, you will be actually going for qualitative research. So here, sampling research design, observational research, statistical research design, operational. So sampling, all of us know that if census study has to be practically not possible generally. So in that case, we will be going for sampling research. So again, sampling is of two kinds: random sampling, non-random sampling. Okay, or probability and non-probability sampling. Again, it has got divisions. Can anyone tell me then 4 techniques in random sampling? That how to actually, while collecting data, which all methods come under random sampling or probability sampling? Any one name, any one method by which we actually finalize the sample. So sampling techniques, and these are sampling techniques. So any one probability sampling technique and one non-probability sampling technique.
Survey
Anyone?
and observation.
Sorry?
Survey and observation. Survey would be probability and
No,
observation.
I'm talking about survey only. I'm talking about survey, but survey cannot happen on the whole mass of data. That means in that census, we cannot go ahead with. So we have to finalize the sample. So these are sample selection techniques. So I'm talking about the sampling methods. So sample selection techniques. So one sample selection technique for probability, one is non-probability sample selection technique.
Stratified sample.
Very good. Stratified is therefore?
Ma'am, cluster.
Yes, very good. So
And
there are
simple random.
four methods. Yeah, simple random, systematic, cluster. Yes, very good. And stratified. These 4 comes under probability sampling. And whereas in non-probability sampling,
Ma'am, quota sampling, snowball.
very good. Quota sampling,
Convenient
Purposive sampling.
convenient and judgmental sampling. Very good.
Purposes.
Purpose. Very nice. So these are the sampling techniques. Now, how to collect data? We need to, if we are going for a survey study, okay, then we need to prepare a questionnaire. Again, questionnaire should be either open-ended or closed-ended. So, can anyone tell me what is the open-ended questionnaire and why it? Okay, which one is like what is open-ended questionnaire?
Ma'am, that cannot be answered as a yes or no response or with some fixed or static response.
Yes. So open-ended would have been given preference to actually give their point of view openly. Okay, we have not restricted them. We have given full freedom to the respondents to write their viewpoint. Whereas in closed-ended, we have given them choices that out of these particular choices, you are restricted to answer out of these. But in research nowadays, most of us actually try to keep our questionnaire closed-ended because compiling it, coding it is very simple when it is closed-ended. Okay, so when you prepare questionnaire, most of us nowadays prepare closed-ended questionnaire where the choices have been given A, B, C, D, or yes, no, or satisfied to non-satisfied. Okay, so such kind of choices would be given. Now, the data collection techniques, if we see, so primary data collection techniques are like observation method, structured interview, self-administered questionnaire, telephone interview, such kind of methods would be adopted. And in secondary sources, we have already discussed a lot of sources are there for secondary researches. Now, processing and analyzing data. So when data has been collected through questionnaire, now what is next? So we'll have to process the data. That means we have to edit the data where in our next session today itself, you will be actually learning that how to actually reduce errors or clear the data. Okay, so in so here improve. This is, or you may say clarifies unclear or inappropriate responses, reduce error in recording. So whatever errors we have found that yes, these are the errors in our data, you may clear it during this particular process here in this step. So the moment data has been collected, now data can be qualitative as well as quantitative. So there is a problem because if data is quantitative, then there is no problem. But if data is qualitative, we would not be able to actually apply Excel or SPSS tools. So if you are actually compiling data in Excel, but at Excel, Excel हम use कर सकते हैं, SPSS पे we can use, but at the same time techniques we would not be able to use to actually analyze the data. Because Excel pe you have loaded the data, but at the same time when you are going to apply the techniques, if you are going for correlation, if you are going for regression, multiple regression, any of the techniques which you wish to use, you want to create a model out of it, then also you need to actually code the data. So coding is very, very important. You'll have to convert that qualitative data into quantitative. The moment that data has been converted into quantitative, then SPSS and Excel will be able to analyze the data easily. So this coding, alphanumerical codes, this code process facilitate processing the data, and the personal computer offers an excellent opportunity in data editing and coding processes. So we'll learn these coding via in these next sessions that how, so there are scales by which actually measurement can be done and this qualitative data can be converted into quantitative. So there are 4 scales, basic 4 scales, that is nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scales, which are there to convert those particular to code the data. Now, data analysis involves reducing accumulated data to manageable size, developing summarize, okay, searching for patterns, because here you may be able to create model also. So you'll have to search for the patterns, applying statistical techniques for understanding and interpretation, the finding under the research questions, testing hypothesis. These all would come under this particular step. That means you're analyzing through your techniques, either statistical techniques or hypothetical. If you have your hypothesis also, then you have to apply hypothesis here and hypothesis techniques on that, those particular statistical techniques. The techniques may range from simple graphical techniques to very complex multivariate analysis, depending on the objective of the study, research design employed, and the nature of data collected. Now, writing of the report, which is again important aspect. This is the last stage of research methodology process, but at the same time, this is again very, very important and crucial, because if a good research conducted should be there for further researches. So writing a proposal before going for final writing, in the beginning, when you have finalized your topic or problem statement, you may go for a proposal also. The proposal, it depends that where you are actually, or from where you are actually, either you are looking for funding or you are looking for the proposal acceptance. It depends on that where you are, you have to submit and in which particular situation or where you have to actually go for this proposal. So research proposal is basically a blueprint or work plan or a prospect, okay, online, outline and offer a statement of intent or commitment from an individual researcher or an organization to produce a product or render a service to a potential client or sponsor. So this basically proposal should be written very smartly. It should cover all aspects which are required to explain your research problem, research methodology, along with your objectives, hypothesis, so that the other person who is actually reading that proposal should accept it. So it should be very much convincing. So the proposal will be prepared to keep the view of sequence presented in the research process. The proposal tells us what, how, where, and to whom it will be done, and it would be benefited to that person. It always includes an explanation of the purpose of the study or a definition of the problem. So this is what is about the proposal. Okay, and it systematic outline the particular research methodology. As I said, that the research methodology should be clearly mentioned. Detail the procedure that will be utilized at each stage of the research process and end goal of a scientific study. Okay, and to interpret the result, draw at the end, yes, you will have to draw conclusion of that proposal also. Okay, and to this end, it is necessary to prepare a report aims to transmit the findings, provide recommendations to administrator, policymakers, and program managers, etc. So various forms of research reports are there: term papers, dissertation, journal articles, paper for presentation at professional conferences, seminars, books, PhD thesis. Okay, so these are various forms of research reports, and for different reports, you may find a few variation, but at the same time, most of them would be covering these content of research report: executive summary, background of the problem, literature review, findings, discussion, conclusion, recommendation. So these would be the broader lines of content in your report, I must say. Okay. This is how this is all about very basics of research methodology, which I have covered, because now you would be going for advanced levels of research methodology and research. I just wanted to give you a brief about research methodology. So any question, then please ask. From my side, thank you. And if you have questions, please ask. Otherwise, we'll be taking a break for 10 to 15 minutes. Then Dr. Monica would be taking the next session. The rest of the people, they can take a break. We'll be starting our next session at 3:22. So maybe at 3:35, we'll be taking our next session. Let's take or 13 minutes break. So I think at 3:35 would be fine. Anyone who is having question can be with me. Rest of the people can take a small break, small tea break.
No issue, ma'am. No questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much then. Allow me. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. This is the day one, second session that is on outliers and data filtering. So I'm more focusing on the data about the how to handle the data, how to filter the data, how to understand the data, and then taking you to all to the outliers, how you can do the outlier treatment, which is very important aspects to before starting with the analysis. So I have already shared the data set with you in your chat box. I think the same data set I will share with you in the WhatsApp group also, so that if the students won't be able to log in, then they can maybe they can take the data set from the WhatsApp group.
Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I have shared the data set in the WhatsApp group as well as in the chat window, so that when we can start working on it. It will take little more time to go to the topic, and then we can start working on the actual data set.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. So I think most of you are the research scholar, the faculty members, and we have a industry expert, industry practitioner, as well as the few students. So when we talk about, because as ma'am has already, Ranjana ma'am has covered the process, and where in the whole process, the data it also comes into picture, because once you are doing your research or you are having your PhD in process, so the main thing and the main focus is because what the theoretical you are able to map, you're able to do the things, but the things which is going to be a small difficulty, because we all get the research papers, we are able to read the research papers, but how to identify, how to get the things out of the research papers, that is what is important. And over the time when you read, like say when you start reading, so it's difficult to read even the first paper, right? When you go to the second paper, third paper, and then it normally comes to the habit of reading reading the research papers. So it happens to everyone. It is not only the new researchers, but it happens to everyone. Now, like when we start reading it, we are feeling it bored, but once you are in habit of reading the research paper, you will be enjoying it. So once the time comes when you are starting enjoying it, it means that that particular research paper is of your area, and you can also work on that particular thing. So when you see any research can have the different dimensions. One is the dimensions of planning, and I can say the second one is the date is something related to data. So most of the time when we are doing our synopsis submission, and it is taking a little bit of time, because once you are through with the guide, and through with the topic, and through with the university, what all you want to wind up, you want to wind up your PhD in quickly. Right, this happens to everyone, because when you when you are through with your guide and through with your because it is a thing which is waiting for you for a long time, because you are into your studies, and you have given your coursework which you have just finished, and it is something which you are just waiting for the guide, and so that you can start working on your PhD. So once the students are coming to us working on the PhD, so we as a guide, or any one of you, I think most of some of you are guide also, some of you are doing research. So as a guide, we have to finalize the topic, and define the objectives, then research questions, right? So these are the normal flow which will go, and once, because it takes lots of time. It is not only that you have think about the topic and you have finalized the objective and it is through. It is not like that. You have to read more and more paper, and once you are starting reading the more and more paper, you want everything to be incorporated in your PhD, where the guide takes an important role, and to streamline your work in terms of title, in terms of objectives, in terms of methodology, in terms of other things which has been taken care of. So this is how it happens. It is not only you, but also it happens to everyone who is doing research and who is doing PhD. So once you are through with the title and the objectives, now the next step is reading a literature, which normally you can have a good good literature review, and you can have maybe 500 or 600 papers that can be that you can maybe 50-60 papers, or maybe right. So based on your research, you can go through the papers, you can identify certain points, and that will be helping you in your research. And yeah, on the way, when most of the time we are little we take as a, so this comes when you are identifying your topic and you identify. So this comes basically the defending of synopsis comes under the planning part. So as soon as, because as in the every project life cycle, it happens like when you are spending more hours, like say more than not more than but 40 to 50 percentage of time in your planning part, then that will be easy for you to take the later stages quickly. And you are very much thorough with all the details which you are going to cover in your PhD. So same way it happens in your report or PhD as well. So selection of topic, selection of right methodology, that is very, very important. Methodology, maybe you can vary as you are collecting the data and when you are having the data, but when you are identifying the variables, you are identifying. So these are the things which are very, very important, where you have to do the proper planning. What are the main category, what are the main subcategories which are going to help you in your research, so that you can do the factor analysis. You can prepare a questionnaire is again an important thing, where how to develop a questionnaire, what are the parameters which has to be covered, what are the factors which are going to be covered, and then you can slowly and gradually get it filled. Because if your questionnaire is wrong or questionnaire lacks a certain input, then it is very, very much difficult for, and it is a waste of time when no, Sadhbir, I'm not changing the slide. I am at the first slide only because I'm just coming through the data, and then I will be starting with the data. So this is how it is important for the other things to be play an important role. And once you have collected the data, whether it is of primary source or the secondary source, if it is in some Yahoo Finance or some government website, if the data is available, then you can start working on that data, or you can have the questionnaire filled, that is a primary data, where you prepare your questionnaire with some questions, and then you can get it filled. Again, the number of questions has a certain calculation where you can have number of questions if there are certain factors or something. So there are some study which is going here and there, which where you can get some idea about how many number of questions I should have, how many number of respondents I should have for my valid research. So once you're doing the research, the validity and the reliability is something which is important for research. Yeah, so validity validity is something which is important because once you are through with the data, so data always, or the factors once you have identified, you have to validate it. So how you can validate it? You can have a group research kind of thing, where you can have a group survey, or say you can have a interviews to a certain group of people, and then you can validate that factors, whether these factors are actually important for my research or not. To some the known person or some experts in that particular area, and try to validate your research. Validate your study. In the same way, there are some tools also which can validate according to like how many number of respondents which are there, and what Ranjana ma'am also says, the having the p-value, you can see the significance, or it is not significant, right? So you can, whether it is having some impact on the study or not. So this is how there are different tests which is going to, so it is just, you are just finding out like what are the new methods that you have proposed, and whether that methods is actually you are validating that particular, whether it is there or not, and you, based on the research, you are defending that particular, whatever you have think of, and you are defending according to your different analysis, by the different tools. Either it can be a t-test or a nova test, where based on the different data types, there are different tests, like correlation is one, then there is a regression where you can have a regression line. There can be a factor analysis, there can be a number of tests that is there. So how the tool is important for your study? The tool is again plays an important role, whether it can be SPSS or a, R or a Python, right? Even Excel also. So Excel also have all the options available, but if you say SPSS, then because it has a good name, it does it does a ready-made thing for you. So you get a different set of reports. You just have to report, you have to interpret it, right? But the same things can be done in Excel also. You can have a solver, you can have a data tool which can be installed in your Excel, and ma'am will be tomorrow, day after tomorrow, like say on the third day, Vani ma'am will be taking you to the how the data tool pack can be installed in the Excel, and you can take about it, you can go about it. My area is how to be familiar with the data and then play around with the data. So to start with, I will be covering the types of data and the outliers, which is the outliers technique, which is again important, how to filter the data. There can be some junks which is available in the data, because in the research we found that there were 1,000 data collected and only 500 which are relevant. So where this 500 data has gone, right? So this 500 left 500 data has gone because it was not complete. Not complete means there are some values which are null or blank. Right, there are some inappropriate values which are inserted and which does not have any meaning with respect to the data. So that is how this data can be filtered out so that they cannot create the disturbance in our analysis. So when we look for the types of data, so let's start with a small case where the Ramanao is an analyst consultant, works in a Credit One bank, and his manager has given him a list of customers of the bank. Further, he has been asked to pull the information from the bank database pertaining a customer list. The information will be around the credit card issued by the bank. He needs to define the variable types and the types of values which each of them contain. Ramana has just started his professional career, doesn't have a good idea about the different variables types. So we have to help Ramana for how to use or how to get identified with the data types. So these are the different, so when you open the sheet, if you open the sheet of data, you will be finding out that there are different data columns which are available, and you have to help Ramana for the stored value, what is that value for, and what is the variable types. Right, so if you have opened the Excel sheet, so let's take you to the Excel sheet and let's spend some time in our Excel sheet. Right, so this is an Excel sheet which says that there is a name of the customer, which is very much relevant as this is a bank data. So this is the name of the customer, which is the customer ID and the ID of the customer. That is a unique ID with respect to the customer. The number of credit cards what one holds, that is again important. Like if I say that Henry is holding 2 and Braden is holding 4 cards, and there are many more, like say who has 9 cards, 10 cards, right? So Dexter is holding 10 cards, which is a huge number of cards which was held by the Dexter. Similarly, the age of the customer, right? So the age of customer is written as in the field as the age of customer last birthday. So this was the latest, which was there based on this. So this was the age of the customer, which is there. The gender of the customer, that is, these are the demographic details. When you collect some data, there can be age, there can be gender, there can be annual salary, right? And the information which is relevant to the credit card company is the name of the number of the credit cards and the monthly card usage. That, right? This is an important figure for any credit company, any credit card company to identify. So what they basically have done is they have identified, or they have done a certain calculation which is on the base of the usage of the credit card. Right, so it is the usage. It has been divided into the different categories as the less than 25% as low. Then there is another category which is like, say, I think 50%, then 75%, and then so these are the different categories. So one has been divided into. So being a familiarity with this data, so if I can see that this is how many records are there in this data, right? So if I can identify how many records are there in this data, any idea?
Ma'am, approx 3,000.
Approx 3,000. So I can use control and down arrow. I can get right. It is 3,000 of the data. Which is there, and these are all the unique data because it has a unique ID which is there. And right, so this is having such kind of information which is there. So, but if I can identify this kind of data, and let's see what Ramana does, right? So we have a, this is for the name of the customer. This is customer ID or a unique ID. Then the number of credit cards which is held by the customer, right? Age of the customer. Then this is the gender of a customer. Then marital status, which has different 4, 5, I think married, unmarried, never married, and divorced. These are the options which is there, which is again a category field. And then there is an annual salary, which is a numeric data, which is giving you a number. And then this is where you have calculated, where you have based on the number field, you have make it as a category where you have given some coding, and that coding is where you have identified a code of less than 25%, right? So there must be some value based on that you have identified this particular code. So now when you see that this particular data, so there are different types of data which is there, right? So broadly it can be divided into the categorical data and the number data, right? So categorical data, if I can look for this data, so name of the customer is the character value, then ID is the number value, but it is a number, but I cannot do any calculation on this number, right? So this can be as same as the category value because I am not doing any calculation based on this ID. ID is the number, but this is not used for any numeric or any calculation. When I go for the number of credit cards, this is again a number where I can do calculations based on that. Then I can find out the average age of customers who have the credit card. Then I can have a gender, which is having two categories, which is considered to be a male and female. There are only two dimensions are there, two categories are there. There can be either a female or a male. Then for marital status, there are again a list of categories, not two, but that is more than two. And then there you have an annual salary, which is again a number, and the monthly credit usage, which is again a category. So now, once you will be doing or applying any data analysis with this data, so there are a specific perspective of using how to use a how to do the analysis based on the category value and how to do the analysis based on the number value. Right. So because we have just started with the analysis. So what I can do is I can just apply the filter over here. So I can go to data, I can apply the filter, right? So while applying the filter, I can easily see that while clicking on this filter credit card, you can see that I can identify what are the total number of records I have. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10, right? So these are the 10 is the highest and 1 is the minimum for the credit card. So this data is only for the credit card. So there are no persons which is without any credit card has entered to this data. If I go for the age, again, you can see the maximum and minimum age by going to the filter. Minimum age is 16 and maximum age is 70. So this is, while using the filter, you can have male, female. So there are only 2 categories, male and female. Then for this, there are 3 categories, which is there, that is divorced, married, and never married. And in the, I think this, you can only go for the maximum and minimum because this is some, what is the number is. Similarly, for the category this, you have for the different types of category where you can have a low, then low less than equal to 25, then you have medium, then you have high, then you have very high. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories which is there, where the usage of the category, usage of the credit card which is divided so that the bank can have the more type of things which one can look for, where you can sell more number of credit cards, or where you can have where the bank can think of something where based on the usage of the credit card, they can be like for the 25, less than 25 can be taken to the greater than 50, or say to the low, and then this low can be taken to the medium, less than 50, and then it can be taken to, right? So this is how the bank can give the target to their employees so that they can be focused on to the next level of this, so that they can start making, or they can start using their credit card more often. So this is how you can see about the data. So data can be seen because you have the data records which are there, right? So it is easy for you to identify that what is the data and what is its data type which is there, right? So it is easy for you because the data which is already placed. So once you get the data, you have identified that this data is there are different kinds of data which is there. One is the numeric and the another one is the category, right? Let's see how Ramana has report to this to his or how someone has helped Ramana to get the information. So data variables, Ramana is able to identify the data variables, and based on the data variables, he has seen the data as we have also seen, and then he is able to identify the value stored. So he has identified that the name of the customer is because this is how you have to, when you are doing your research, you have to give the details of all your columns which you have used in your questionnaire for the study, right? You give the description. So once you say name of the customer, you have to give the description of that particular or a field which you have used for your questionnaire. So name of the individual customer, then it is a unique identifier, which is a customer name, then name of the credit, number of the credit card, that can be 1 to up to 10. Then age of the customer, last birthday, it is 18, 19, 20, and so on. Gender is male and female. Then marital status, there are 3. Married, unmarried, and divorced. Then you have the annual salary, which is this, and then there is a monthly credit card usage, which is low, then there is low less than 25, then medium, high, very high. Right. So this gives you a clear-cut idea like how is your data is being placed and what are the different values of the data. If you see the data type, how you can help the Ramana to identify the data. So data type is where you can have the data type variable. So as we have identified, as we have already discussed, and even Ranjana ma'am has also discussed about the two category of the data. One is the categorical and the number. So we are not thinking about the third category. We are just talking about the two categories, number and the categorical variables and the numeric variables. So numeric variables are something which is defining as the discrete value which does not have a decimal place, like number of credit cards owned by the person, number of states, charge of electron, right, which has a particular number, right? And if it is a continuous, then arising from measuring can be any value of a specific range. It can be height 7.5, 6.5, right? So whenever you have a decimal or amount of money, it can be with PASA, so it can be 271 dot. So we leverage to take the it is in the continuous, right? Whether you have an amount which is not in decimals, but in future it can be in decimals. So to avoid that, you can have the amount of money as a continuous. Then age, if it has months, then you have 7 point something as to be considered as the age and months, something like that. When you talk about the categorical value variable, so categorical variable is, it can be a binary where you can have the yes, no, male, female, pass, fail. When you use the categorical variable in the SPSS, you have to code that particular value, right? So you have to take male as 0 and female as 1 or maybe 1 or 2, right? So this is the coding which you have to do for SPSS. But in Excel, you can take it as, we can take it as male, female, yes, no, pass, fail, that will work. Then there is a nominal scale. Then the nominal is again an ordered category, which you have the type of account, type of insurance policy. Here we have the status of the customer, right? So that all comes under the nominal, which has a distinguish, like we can have a type of bank account. It can be there are different types of bank account, right? So there can be a special account or it can be the saving account. So that can all be considered. Ordinal is something which is important when you go for a Likert scale and you say that the map from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, then that is again a categorical value, but it is in the ordinal scale. Right. So the questionnaire, that is responses for strongly in favorable to strongly against, where you can say the starting from 5 to 1. So 5 is the strongly favorable, then you can have strongly, then maybe the mediator or something. You can have it either from the 10 to 1 or you can have 5 to 1 or something based on your scales which you want to consider. So there is a lot of debate which says that whether you have to take the 5 scale, because in the 5 scale, if you go for a third value, then third value is the average, right? So average does not have any relevance in something in some of the studies. So that's what there is there, like you have to either go for a 4 or a 5. So right, so it is totally up to you where you based on the study you can have the scales, Likert scale, it is seems to be. So these are the different types of variables. You have a summary, you can divide it. We have already divided into the numeric and categorical. The numeric is the continuous and discrete, and then categorical is, it can be binary, it can be nominal, it can be the ordinal. Continuous is arises measuring, which can be the salary or something. Then discrete, which is accounting, number of credit card or number of children, which cannot be 1.2 or 1.4 or 1.5, right? It can always be a strict to the discrete value. Number of credit card, it cannot be 4.5. Number of children, it cannot be 1.2 or something, right? So it can be one fixed value or a discrete value. Then you can have a categorical, where can be only 2 categories, male, female, yes, no, pass, fail. Then there is a nominal, where you can have unordered category, and the third one is, which is a ordinal, where you have a certain set of categories. Either you can have a 5 set of ordered category, or it can be 1 to 10, 1 to 5. So considered it. So now Ramana is in the state where he has filled all the details, like the name of the customer and the customer ID. Because of the variable type, he has not filled, because that is not going to use in for the analysis. But the numerical discrete, right? Categorical binary, because it has only 2. Categorical nominal, because it can be more than 2. Then amount, which is numerical continuous, and the category, which is categorical ordinal. So this is how he has divided, and he has put the remarks also, where the certain remarks for the identifier, or it can be for his own usage, he can define, or he can identify it based on how he has, on the what basis he has given the category type. So takes the many values with a given range, the several ordered categories. So that's how he has identified, and he has given the data type. Now, because the data has been collected and data seems to be from the bank, now his manager has given him the task of to identify, based on the data, he has to summarize the data and to prepare a report, right? So as Ramana is new to the professional career, so we have to help Ramana to create or prepare a summary report. So if we can see the data, right? I want to go for a summary data. So can you help me out how we can summarize this data? How we can summarize and data, and to get something out of it? If you get any thoughts out of it, just write it in the text box, chat box, or speak out. Anyone? Okay. So I'm saying that because we have to summarize this data, right? So data is already in place. It has 3,000 of records. We have to summarize this data with by defining how the overall data in terms of pivot. Okay, summarizing in terms, yes, you can use pivot as well. Pivot is the one way for summarizing it in the report format, right? So you can have the salary, you can have you can have the two important thing is the number of the credit card, and the age of the person, and the salary of annual salary also. So the next step is you can have the frequency. You can use the frequency function to identify the number of cards which is being used by the people. So right. So I think you know how to apply the frequency function. Yeah, mean of the card. Yes, that can be done. Sadhbir is right. You can have a if I can identify it, or if I can see that how I can use this data. How, like you can see the right hand side, it is already there, where I can see the average, right? Average. This is the average of. Now this is the average of credit cards, right? So if I can simply say that the most of the people have the 4 and 5, right? So I have most of the people who has either 4 credit card or 5 credit card, right? So it can be either 4 and 5. So I have identified, I have taken the mean and identify it. Then variance, this, okay, comparison of the usage level of male and female. Yes. So you can have the male and female, like what I think surveys said, that you can have a pivot table and you can identify it. So if I go for a pivot table, I can easily identify it. Pivot I will be using your tomorrow's class, where we will be having the best use of how to create a dashboard and all, right? So I can go to the insert and pivot table. I can go to insert, I can go to pivot table and then pivot table and range, right? I can go to the new sheet. I want a new sheet to be displayed. And then I can have a age on age. Okay, instead of age, I can have a number of credit card and I can have a count, right? So once I identified that the number of credit cards, right? So what it is showing, are you able to see my screen? Yes. This is a pivot table which we have drawn on the basis of number of credit card. Are you able to see the screen? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So we have
Yes, ma'am.
summarized it on the basis of the credit card, right? So the people 150 is the total 3,000. You can see that there is total 3,000 of count, and you can see that the number of people who are 660 is using the 4 credit card, and 5 credit card is used by this 540 people, right? So you can also have a pivot table. You can go for maybe insert, and then either you can go to the pivot table or you can have the graph, right? So you can get the graph also. You can easily visualize this is for the credit card 4 and this is for the credit card 5. Right. So what we have done, basically, we have identified that most of the people use the 4 to 5. So conversion of using 1 credit card, 2 credit card and 3 credit card is very much approachable for the 4 and 5. You can easily convert them to use the 4 and 5 credit card, right? 4 or 5 credit card, because most of the people are into this category, and this is the most popular where the people are having the 4 or 5 credit card. So this can be one of the instance where you can have the number of cards held by the customer. 150 is holding 1 card. Very nice. So yeah, so one can say that the mode is 5. Yes. So this is how you can identify, or you can create the report. You can have a summary report where you can identify it, either taking a mean, or you can have this diagram where you can say that, right? So this can be one of your recommendation in your research paper, where you can see that the conversion of this can be possible. This can be more in terms of credit card. Yes, this is good for the descriptive analysis. Yes, this is good for the descriptive analysis, because know your data is very, very important for you when you start your research. And when you go for the descriptive analysis, that is very, very important for Similarly, there is a second part, is the salary part, right? So what I can do is I can create another table, or another pivot table, and I want to be more focused on the salary part, right? So I can identify that how many salaried people are there who has holding the account, and how much of they have spent in my this thing. So I just want to bifurcate my data and to identify that how many people, how many salaried people, and what is their salary band, who are there with me in my bank and holding the credit card. So similarly, I can do the insert pivot table. I can go for a table range, same way, same step. And what I can do is I can go for the annual salary, right? And I can go for the name of the customer. I am taking a value, so it is giving me the count, right? So I can go for a count, right? So you can see that how you can identify that these are all the one numbers, because there is no repeated value. How I can make it as more representable, I can right click it and go for the group, right? So once you have done the pivot table for either for number or for the data or for the you can do it for date also. So date will take care of months, date will take care of quarters, it will take care of all the things. Similarly, if it is only a number, you can have or you can group it. How you can group it, it is suggesting you. You can have the slab of like 1 lakh slab starting from 5 lakh and it is ending to 9 lakh. Right, so it is giving you 5 to 7 means there are, right. So what I want it to be 50,000. I do not want to keep the 1 lakh because 1 lakh when I keep it, so it will be giving me only the 4 blocks, right. So what I want it to be little diversity. So I want it to be 50,000 of 50, right, 50,000. Instead of 1 lakh, I can go for 50,000. And I said, okay. So you can see that what it has been done is all my data, which is being converted into with a difference of 50,000. And or even you can change the starting value also, right? Starting is you can have a something which is more of this thing, and I can start from maybe from 2,000, maybe from 50,000. 50,000 to this, and maybe you can have it as maybe 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With 10 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So now it is much more feasible, like you have started with 5,000 and then it is ending with like 50,000 and it is ending with 1 crore or something. So now you can have or you can plot this graph, which will be more meaningful to you if you have placed it like this, right? So you can see that you can identify that the most of the person who is at the higher is right. So it is the 182, which is the highest one. If you want to make it more this thing more readable, so there are a number of options which is there in your graph as well. So you can go to the graph. Okay, once you click on the graph, you will be having a design also. And once you can see that, is there any other design format which is available? Okay, it is going to pivot table. Okay, it may be not coming this way, but for the normal graph, you can see that there can be a number which can be written at the top. So you can have, or you can see that what will be the number of people or number of customers who are between the range of that particular salary. So if you can see that who are or the customer, this was there. So you can see that there was 182, which is the highest number, 175 is the second highest number, 172 is the third highest number, and then so on. Right. So this is how you can identify it, and you can see the number of, I think there must be some sort option also. So you can have sort based on, so it is coming like that. So, okay, this we will see. So this is how you can have, or you can identify how it can be, how, who are the, what is the salary, or the credit card owners are of the range of salary from this to this. So you can work upon that data, and then that this can be considered as your summary report or summary report, and this will be helping you out. Similarly, you can have the different kind of, right? So this is how you can be familiar with your data. Okay, it is 10 lakhs. Okay. So you can have, okay, one of the student, I think one of the participant is saying that we can have intervention also. So you can have the intervention also with the data, like say if this kind of data I have, and I want to identify it. If I go to my first sheet, I have the number of, and if I want to incorporate the male and female. So if I go to my data, So if I go to my sheet and if I want to see I'd see the data, and if I go for view, I think view must have where I can see where I can view the data sheet. Okay, I can see view, switch window. Okay, maybe in the home. So I can where I can identify or where I can see the table and where I can add the other options as well. So I think show list. So in the show list, I can have the number of cards. If I want a gender to be included, I can put the gender in the column. So I can see that there is a bifurcation of gender as well as the credit card, and you can see that it has been incorporated in the graph as well. So you can see that there were more number of males as compared to female when you are talking about. So if you want to go for the gender-based study also, then that can also be a part where you can put on. If you want to again add a few more, like you want to add marital status also. So you can make it more complicated as you can add on to a number of things, because Excel won't know anything about what study you are doing, but now whatever you want it to be, it will be displayed in the way as it is being required. Similarly, if you want to see the salary with the gender, so I can have the salary, I can have the gender, and I can see the relationship. Is there any relationship between the gender and the salary? So yes, gender, right? So male is having most of the account, and if you want to see the gender and the credit card, so credit card owners are more of the males, not the females. Right. So this is how you can have your descriptive statistics and you can know about your data. Because once you are starting with the analyzing about the data, the important thing is you should know about the data. So this is how you can know about the data. You know what is going to be my average salary, what is going to be my average usage of my credit card. Average salary can be calculated by average function by using like say if you want to go for the average salary, so I can calculate the average salary and then I can have so average salary, which is average annual salary of the employees is somewhere around 5 lakhs, right? So this is how you can look about your data. Similarly, for respect to the category also, if you want to see the monthly usage of credit card with is there having some relation with the annual salary or not. So you have already had an annual salary where you have credit card and this, right? So I can also, instead of gender, if I want to have the monthly credit card, right? So if I put the monthly credit card in this way, I can have the total monthly card, right? So it has a clear cut data. So instead of graph, the more useful information I can get from the table also. So one visualization can be table where I can have 150 records, and 150 records are again divided into 70 plus 15 plus, right? So this is how you can do the analysis based on the requirement of your system. So we have seen frequency, we have seen how the frequency with the data, frequency with a discrete value, frequency with the number where we have the salary into where we have the account, yes, the annual salary in place, and we have calculated based on that we have calculated and done certain elementary analysis. So I think we have helped Raman now to have the frequency distribution. Then we have the group description, which we have helped out cumulative again, the frequency if you want to go for a cumulative description. And there is one more, that is the stem leaf diagram, where you have the age of 30, and if there are 31, 32, right? So you have a baseline and then you can have the number, and the line plots again, that can be, you can have always have like one variable with another variable, and you can see the plots. So Raman now is able to identify, I think this we have done. We have identified based on the salary frequency, we have used a pivot table. There are other methods also. Using the pivot is very smart work, where you have to do a simple 3-4 steps and you can do. Otherwise, you can have a frequency function where you can apply the frequency function to calculate the frequency also, right? Frequency is the number of items for that. So very unique method where you can use the pivot and you can get the summary. So we have used the pivot and get the summary. Cumulative, we already have this. We can have the 500 plus, so it is 500, then 500 plus 150, that comes out to be, and you can have a cumulative graph where over the time. So in the same way, you can identify that you can get the cumulatives. You have to have a data in place for that. That is the only way where you can have the measure of spread. We will be doing in tomorrow's class. So because I have to cover the descriptive analysis, so descriptive analysis in which I will be covering the mean, median, and mode, and the other things, and explaining you all the dispersion, etc. So that I will be covering in the tomorrow's second session. So just taking you to the outlier, I just send you. Okay, first I will show you, and then I will, after the class, I will send you the data set. So if I can open so I just move you to the next part of today's lecture, that is handling the data to removing the outliers. If you can know that data is very, very important, and the data which is being mix match will trouble for the researcher or for the analysis, and it will be giving you the wrong results. Right. So a very, very important thing is filter the data. And most of the cases I have seen when the students come for defending the thesis, and they are saying that out of 500 records, 361 is the valid, and we have done the analysis on that 361. So one way is you can make your questionnaire such that, so that you can make it necessary, or you can have it as a required field in your, when you are preparing a questionnaire, like say the Google form or any other tool, any other site, if you're using for the questionnaire, then make it as a mandatory, right? So that one cannot, so that you can avoid the missing value. And if you are try to have most of the questions with the radio button, or with a radio button, or the checkbox. Checkbox is where you can have a multiple selections, right? So if you say that whether you are using the credit card for one, or for say the choices are for payment of the electric bills, then second can be the payment of food in food court, etc. Right? So there can be multiple options where you can take the multiple values based on the available options. And always put others, or if there is no options which is available on the set, so one can have the others and one can define the name. If not, then one can check on the others, and that will be your that will be having a close set of information which is there. If if you are not putting the others, then there are some information which has been lacking on terms, or because one has to, because all the fields are required, so one has to tick on something and move to the next question. So in that case, there may be some false information which will not be correct information to take your study further. So what basically we normally find the two kind of information which is lacking is, one is the data valid and the another one is the missing out the information. Missing out the information is the null value, and there are certain values where there are misspelled some of the values and you need a outlier treatment for that. So like say this is the data which I will be sharing with you, and if you can see that this data. So the first and the foremost step is you have to apply filter. You have to see that what are the different set of values which are there in this information, right? So if you have the null value, then based on the null value in any of the column, that has to be removed or that has to be taken some action, right? So it can be based on the data type of the value. So we will be going one by one and try to find out what is the data type. So if it is a valid data, so there we will be doing in the three treatments we will be doing. One is for the invalid data, another one is for the missing data or the blank value, and third is for the outlier. So I just share the data with you so that once you will be doing it at home, so you will be having the data with you. So I hope you are able to get the outlier Excel sheet. Yes. I have put it in the chat box of Zoom. Are you able to open it? Yes. Okay. So I just I just try to use that Excel sheet, like how to go about based on the analysis, or the first step that you have to use is for the missing the data. So you can see that some of the values are blank here, right? So these are all the values blank which are there. So you can go to the data and you can go for filter, right? What all we have done at the first step. So if you can see that there are certain information which is given, that there are only 4 colors, and one is red, which is a favorite color of one, red, blue, and the green and yellow, and there are only 2 genders, male and female, and the reaction time is the ratio data, and the happiness is the interval data. So if I can go for a gender and I can identify that, right? So there are the three values, 1, 2, and 4, right? So there is something which is it's not correct value. That is the value 4, right? So I have to do the treatment for this 4 value. That is number 1. Now next is are there blanks also available? Yes, there are some blanks which are also available. So let's see what are the blanks value. Is there any blanks value? Yes, there is one blank value which is there. Right. So you have to do the treatment of two kind of things. One is a wrong data, because male, female, either it can be missed or it can put as wrong, right? So there cannot be any third option which is there, because it can be either a male or a female. So if I can go for the next step, that is the favorite color, if you can see that there are, the color is only from 1 to 4, and there is one extra color which is coming as 5. So we have to do the treatment for this as well. Similarly, for happiness, it has been given as 4, 5, and 6. Right, so 6 and 7, but there is no coding for that, so I can leave this. These are the, I think these are the ranks which are happiness, and volatility is the interval data. So they have different scales of data where they have put as the 4, 5, and 6. Similarly for this, and for the reaction we have 1 to 4, and there is a 15 value which is again considered to be someone has put or that can be considered as which needs a treatment for this. Right. So if there is some missing value, right, in the most of the cases, if there is a missing value in case of gender or in case of right, so that what all treatment you have to do is so if I can see that what are the treatment for the invalid or the impossible values. Invalid values, like in case you have the four as gender 4 as invalid, and same way for the color 5 is invalid. So for the gender 4, because it is invalid, so you can delete that particular row because that cannot be an data which can be used for the analysis further, because the invalid data which is invalid gender which is there. But for the valid, because the favorite color 5, and there can be, because there can be a color, different color which can be option as a favorite color. So you can have some addition, in addition to this, that can be some color called as others. So you can add a other option and that can be considered as others. Similarly, for the other two columns, all the data are in range, so you need not have to worry for that particular fields, right? So for the treatment, what all the treatment you have to do is you have to filter, you have to go for this 5, right? Go for this 4 and see that there is only one record which is there, so you can delete this record and make your corrections based on this, and it has to be exempted from the analysis. In the similar way, for the another option which is there as the favorite, and there is a color option which is called as the 5, and this 5 can be considered as, so you can code for one more which is considered to be others, and then consider this 5 where you have the others option as well. So this is a general coding, but there is no hard and fast tool, but it has been based on some literature which is there, like how to go about it. But there is no hard and fast. Most of the time, we found that when you are doing the analysis, you delete all this rows and do the analysis only for those. But in case if you are having a full, very few set of data, in that case, you cannot ignore or you cannot this thing, then in that case, like in case of the favorite color, you have added, because there are 2 records, and if you want to, either you can delete the 2 records or you can have another option where you can have others and have that particular option as well. But your data set has to be, so you can have 5 as the option, and then you can put the others. So this is how you can make the treatment for the impossible values. Now next is for the null values. So for the null values, the treatment for the null values is again, it depends upon when you are applying. So for the gender, if it is null value, right, for the gender, you can either use some value, if you can see that how many are the null values, and you can use some extraordinary value like 99 or something, which can distinguish from the other value and does not come to 1 and 2 values. So it can be put it like this, or you can have that value. For the favorite color, for the blank, you can use others, because others you have already created for the 5. So you can use the same as 5. So all the blanks can, in the favorite color, can be converted into 5. And for say the blank, you can, for the other area, like say when you are having the values as the ratio data or the interval, sorry, for the interval data. So for the interval data values, you can have an average of that. So for all the blanks, like say for happiness and vitality, what you can do is you can use the average. So you can identify the average and replace the null value with the average value, right? So this is how you can make your data much relevant, because if you are start deleting all the null values, so your data set because otherwise your data set, if I can see that the data set is only the 29 records, if you start deleting all the null values, then that will be difficult for you to do the analysis. So this is how you can have the different way to treat for the null value. And for the last step, which is there for the, like say for the reaction time, if I can create a plot, if I can go to the insert and create a plot, create a box plot, right? If I can go for all chart and I go for histogram funnel, there is a chart called box plot. Box plot, right? So if I can click on the box plot, I can see that this value, that is 15, right? So if you can see the box plot, so this is the box and this is the outlier, which is at the extraordinary like top. So this is the value which is considered to be the outlier. So I have to do the treatment for this. So what I can do is I can consider it as my third quartile value. There are different types of calculation which is there. If you can get the third quartile value, so that can be replaced by 15, right? So that can be one of the simplest calculation where you can do the treatment for the outlier, where you have the quartile 3, like if you divide the quartile 1, 2 and 3, and then this value can be replaced with the quartile 3 because it is at the top. If it is at the bottom, then it can be the value of first quartile. So this is how there are the treatments which can be done with the data set to make it more meaningful, so that your analysis at the end should not give you weird results based on the mistakes, based on the missing value that we have. So I can quickly take the question answers. So if you have any questions, tomorrow we will be doing making up the dashboard, where we will be using a pivot table. And secondly, we will be doing the descriptive analysis. So any questions? So I will quickly take the question answers and then we will wind up the session. Okay, thank you, Sadhbir. So both the two data sets are with you. So you can just go with the data set. You can see the data set and you can try out the different functions that we have studied. And then we will meet tomorrow with more options, more formulas in Excel. So I hope you all have given, you have marked your attendance, right? All of you have marked your attendance?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. And feedback as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, you have not marked? Okay, I will share. It has been shared in your WhatsApp group. If you are there in the WhatsApp group, you might have received. If not, I will share it here as well. So, Sadbir, you have some questions related to the missing value? So this is your attendance link, and the next one, this one is your feedback. Yes, I can respond it so that very distinct. Revise your questionnaire accordingly so that you can have, so that you can avoid the missing and the wrong points. Perfect. Yes. Okay, thank you so much. So I am ending this session for today, and we will meet you tomorrow at the same time, 2 o'clock.